Welcome back to Witness Depot University. We want to finalize this session, these teachings on the mission of the church. And we were talking about the notorious mental block of the American church. And I'd like to direct you to a Parrot Talks broadcast that we had on this very subject. Now, I'd like to cover it just a little bit, and we'll lead you into that video. Practically all functions of church evangelism today are carried on within the framework of a mental block. Very key word here, mental block, which assumes the following: if we can somehow get sinners into our church, we will get them saved. And so we want to go to that right now and take a look at this broadcast of the notorious mental block. Welcome to Witness Depot. I'm Michael Parrott, where you're going to get straight talk from the heart. Today, my guests are Scott Crawford from Preach Across America. Scott, thanks for being with us.
Glad to be here.
And Art Nealon from Thrive Church, and his son, AJ Nealon from Thrive Church.
Hello. Hello.
All right. We're going to get into some subjects today, and I believe it's from a good heart and straight talk from the heart. And I want to start off from a gentleman. I'm sure, Scott, you remember this guy. He goes all the way back, I think, to the 60s. I think when I got these materials, and what they are is called Join This Chariot by T.L. Osborne, and also Soul Winning by T.L. Osborne. And there's a few guys along the way, their writings on soul winning, that really, really motivated and helped to mentor me in my witnessing, so-called witnessing ministry or career or whatever you want to call it, ministry. And so we're gonna learn some golden nuggets from this guy, and we're all gonna chime in on it. So I want to read you something real quick here. This is called "Abandon the Notorious Mental Block" by T.L. Osborne. Having a soul-winning and Great Commission church starts with the pastors abandoning the notorious mental block. Practically all functions of church evangelism are carried on within the framework of a mental block which assumes the following: if we can somehow get sinners into our church, then we will get them saved. We invite people to come hear our special speaker at our church. We advertise by radio, TV, newspaper. Our church is freshly carpeted, and our pews are nicely padded. We have a great choir and a fine pastor. Most lost sinners are trying to tell us something for a long time. We will not come to your church to get saved. 90%, now T.L. Osborne says 90% of all sinners in your community will not come to your church. And this is why he's basically saying, hey, you got to get rid of this notorious mental block. You've got to abandon this mental block of trying to get sinners to come to church. Okay, well then, what should we do? Abandon your mental block. Face the fact that most sinners will never come to your church to get saved. Now, what's your perspective on that take of this mental block? Is it still in the church today? Is it now? You guys have been around the last 10 years. I've been out of it, and we're not going to go into why I've been out of it. But where is the American church as far as it has this? Now this goes back to the 50s and 60s, 70s. I think I got his stuff in the 70s, and that's what, 30 some years ago.
Right.
So has the American church, and let's say the American pastor or the American leadership, abandoned, or has it crumbled? Has it come down any? Or do we still have that mental block of, well, the only way we're going to do is we're going to try to get them to come?
Well, Mike, good question. I think it's gotten worse, actually, the last 10 years.
Okay.
And I'm speaking from a pastor point of view.
Okay.
Yeah, the mentality now is that we just don't want to offend anybody. And it's kind of the spirit of the age. Spirit of the age permeates that we're not here to offend anybody. The church has adopted that, and we're afraid that if we are known as a fanatical, radical church, that'll really turn people off from coming, you know? But I think we have to get a different mindset. I know we talked about that the other day. Mindset of most churches and most pastors is that we're here to be the friendly pal of the world. We're going to win the world by being their buddy. You know, some of that obviously is good. We want to try to be a blessing to our community. But the mindset of the book of Acts is they were there to take on the city. So they had a different mindset. And they didn't care if they were branded fanatical or radical, because they came to the point where Jesus was worth it. And they were willing to pay the price of being scorned or ridiculed for his name's sake. And we've lost that. That's why we really need revival, to bring the truth back that, my goodness, Jesus Christ is worth it. The weapons of our warfare are spiritual in nature. We don't have to have a great marketing plan. Most churches, what they do is they have marketing plans on how to bring in people.
So,
which really is the arm of the flesh. We got to say, you know what? I don't need the arm of the flesh. I don't need the wisdom of the wise. I need the foolishness of the preaching of the cross.
Oh, very good.
God said he would back it up with power.
So you're saying that then you haven't seen a change, because he's saying abandon the mental block all the way back to the 60s. He's saying get rid of this mental block of trying to get sinners to come. Okay, and so it's 2015, and so I'm going. I saw glimpses of in the 50s. And in the 60s, well, not in the 50s, because I was only always been 5 years old. In the 60s, I came in contact with these pastors that were soul-winning pastors. They were oriented around soul winning, and they were great men of God. I mean, these guys, some of these fundamental Baptists, they were winning souls themselves in their world. But their church was oriented around going after the sinner. So he was saying this back then. And so I saw and experienced soul-winning pastors that went after the sinner. One was Tommy Barnett.
Yeah.
Tommy Barnett. I met him in 1981, and his church was oriented around going to get the sinner instead of trying to get the sinner to come. So, you know, and we talked a little bit about this before. So Scott, you mentioned what was it? Something about I think it was something even in your. Well, let's put it this way. Why do we even have this block? Who put this block in? I mean,
well, I would modify
okay.
what he said a little bit.
Okay.
Because if every member of the church, you mentioned the Baptist and you mentioned Tommy Barnett and stuff like that, they sent people out to talk to people.
Yes.
But part of what they did was personally invite people to come in.
Yeah, yes.
So it works if you have everyone or majority of your congregation going out and talking to people and personally inviting them in. Personal invitation is fine.
Right.
But they may get saved while you're talking to them and inviting them, or they may come in and sit under the sermon of whatever it is for that day. God will make sure it lines up with exactly what they need to hear. I've heard that so many times. Boy, that message was just for me. You know, that guy was talking just to me. Well, see, God knows how to do that. So I don't say that we don't invite people in. As a matter of fact, I've got a book in the car that says
we need to invite people.
Yeah, the unchurched next door. They did a survey and found out one of the things that they found out that amazed them, that when they talked to people, two things. Their view of the church, the average person out there's view of the church, is it's a private club in which you don't go to unless you're personally invited, just like any other private club. They don't know that the doors are open and you can just walk in anytime you want.
But even if you're going to invite them to church, though, you still got to go to them.
Right.
You're still going to the center.
Yeah, what they found out also was, they asked this question, if you were invited, would you come? 80% of them said yes, if it was a genuine personal invitation. Now, I'm not talking about media, I'm not talking about email, I'm not talking about electronic stuff, I'm not talking about big ads on billboards and stuff, which all of that brings some people in. But I'm talking about personal, individual invitations.
Well, for me, a lot of it, as far as, I think what TL's trying to say is,
you've got to go out.
We've got to go to the center, and instead of trying to attract the center to come to us.
Right.
And so a lot of going to the center, just like Art's team went to the streets the last 2 nights here in Denver, Colorado, a lot of those people will never attend your church, even if they do get saved out there. You know what I'm saying? So, they'll end up being a member or a convert of somebody else's. So, I see witnessing, that we're commanded to go witness to the center.
We're gathering into the body of Christ, not into a specific building.
Here's the big problem. Big problem, Jesus said, pray the Lord of the harvest that he would send forth more laborers into the harvest field. The whole problem really is soul winning, inviting people to church or whatever it is, involves work. It's called laborers. Most people don't want to labor. See what I'm saying? Unless they deem it worthy of it. Is this cause, is this purpose so important and worthy of the fact of me having to put out energy, sweat, suffer rejection, time away from my family? Do I deem this cause worthy enough to pay that price? Most people right now would say no. Let's find an easier way to do it. That's why, as AJ was saying earlier, you got to come to the point where you say, well, Jesus is worth it. We had people spitting on us, mocking us, everything last night. You could have your feelings hurt and never ever do that again. Or you can, as AJ shared, deem it worthy to suffer for the Lord. Take it as a privilege, because this is the greatest cause in the universe that we're a part of.
But you see, the big picture, most people are not going to do what we will do. They're not going to go out to the streets. They're not going to maybe even go out and pass tracts out. Really, all they need to do is talk to the people in their sphere of reference.
Yes.
Just like person after person that we interviewed this afternoon.
Yes, their job.
Ministered at work.
Yes.
And with the people that are around them. That's all really that we need to get the average Christian to do. See, it's been taught that you give and we'll go. We're the evangelists. We're the ministers. And we are the ones that go. You give and we'll go. See, but that's, and it's fine to give. The Bible talks about tithing and giving, and that's good, and the work and the church needs to be supported. But that does not relieve anybody from the responsibility of sharing their faith. All they need to, God's plan for evangelism is more like multi-level marketing than it is like business world today. Advertisement, bring people in, give them a special deal. See, we're starting to give people special deals right now.
TL goes into that though, and we don't have time to touch on that. I'd like to do like a 3-part series of touching on that, because really our example for going to the center, the church, the leadership, call them pastors, apostles, prophets, whatever you want to call them, presbyters, bishops. Our example is the book of Acts. And in the book of Acts, like you said, these people were going everywhere.
Yeah.
And everywhere was their homes, their business.
Everyone was going everywhere.
Right.
Just like in the 70s.
Right.
Everyone was going. That's why we saw revival.
They also had, there was a twofold attack. they had, and I believe that is the key. If you just did that, if you just see, I believe what needs to happen is leadership needs to give room for honoring the people's testimonies of what they're doing in their personal world.
That's right.
And,
Well,
and
that
to
would
where
be
you
good.
go, stand up and give your testimony of what God's been doing. In, who was it? Mr. Garcia today talked about how he lets people to the Lord at his job. God's people need to be honored for that, and so that other people can follow.
Well, you know what?
When you're done, I wanna piggyback on
the
that.
new churches that are springing up are using that format. More like 20 minutes for a message and leave time for people. I can tell you a number of churches in the area where I'm ministering in Northern California right now. The new churches that are coming up are using the format that pretty much anybody can come up and have something.
Do you
to
know
say.
though that
Yeah.
get you here real quick here. But I would like to get this in because of what you touched on. And TL talks about this. TL says, okay, they went everywhere into their world. Everybody was witnessing. It wasn't just the leadership. It wasn't just a church
Right,
service.
that's right.
Everybody was witnessing.
That's what I'm talking
but
about.
they had their strategy. They went door to door. And he's got, I don't want to take the time to get the scripture. They went door to door and they had mass meetings in the open air. They were holding mass meetings. The leadership was possible. Peter was standing up and different open air campaigns. And he calls them mass evangelism and personal evangelism. You have mass evangelism. So you need a strategy to believe God for divine appointments for your world, for every believer. Every believer is supposed to be doing that in their world. But then a strategy of how do you want to do we want to reach our streets or our neighborhoods or so anyway, Art, what were you going to say?
Yeah, piggyback on that, everybody needs to reach their personal world. Very true. However, I think God's people really embrace when you take them to the streets and do evangelism at that high intensity level. That's where I think a lot of pastors miss it. They think nobody really wants to do that. I've found just the opposite. I've found God's people love it. And it brings them alive. They taste the anointing, they never had. And then they come back and they're alive. They become your best worshipers, your best givers, your best ushers.
Do you know
now they're bold enough to do personal world evangelism where they never would have before.
Yeah, right.
But what you need is leaders. Problem right now, most of the leadership in the church world, I say this with the heart of grace too, most of them are Colonel Klink.
Colonel Klink?
Yeah, from Hogan's Heroes.
Sergeant Schultz and Colonel Klink.
We
might want to interrupt
instead of General
Witness
Patton.
Depot
Where
right
are
now.
the General Pattons? Where's the General Pattons that are leading the way as an example, showing God's people that we don't have to be scared?
Yeah,
We
Patton
can
was
go,
taking a white pearl gun and
that's
shooting
true.
at planes.
Yeah, see what I'm saying? And people will follow that.
Okay.
And they will love it. It will revolutionize their Christian walk. And now they will go in their personal world and have great impact.
They feel like they're a part of a team. They feel like they're part of the body, each part working together, you know?
Yeah, they taste the boldness. They taste the boldness.
Yeah.
Just feels right about finally doing it.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's good.
Yes. You go from spectator to actually...
And we've had people say that over the years as well. It feels like I'm actually living out the Bible. I'm not just reading it, I'm actually living it now.
Yeah.
And
See,
they love it.
You
They
can't.
love it.
We've somehow turned the New Testament into a whole bunch of teaching about how God will bless you and this, that, and the other. And the whole New Testament, if you read it correctly, is about spreading the gospel. All of the Gospels are about spreading the gospel. The whole book of Acts is about spreading the gospel. All of the books that were written were to help people overcome things so that they could spread the gospel. And what has happened is we've taken the end result out. We're just going to teach you. You come back for a 22-part series on whatever, and then I'll go to a 42-part series on something else. But you're never expected to actually put that into action except to apply it to your own personal life. You know, so you're constantly. So now, having begun by faith, are we being perfected by works? Are we telling people that they've got to listen to you and obey and do this and work on this and everything, and never get to the point where they can feel like they can share. See, a lot of people don't go because, number one, they don't feel that they're adequate. They don't feel that they're clean enough. Their life is clean enough in sin. They don't understand the washing of the water with the Word of God. They don't understand how the blood of Jesus cleanses it. They don't understand that sanctification is instant, but it's also ongoing. God's always working for on something in your life, but if you to die today and you're following Jesus, you're going to be in heaven. He's not waiting for you to be perfected.
So anyway, we're basically what we're looking at with TL is a church, and what he's saying is, okay, abandon the mental block. And he says the mental block is trying to get the sinner to come to you instead of going to the sinner.
Right.
So obviously the first step is that we need to be going to the sinners that are in our personal world.
Right.
But we need to be going to the sinners, like you're saying, Art, into our community. And that's what they did. Now he says, we don't have time to go into the scripture. He says that they went to every home. And they went everywhere. And obviously they were preaching in the open air. And by the way, they didn't have what was it? They had Solomon's porch where they met.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a building. So anyway, let's end it here. But he says the church building concept of evangelism has become the greatest hindrance to soul winning, not because we have a church building, because we won't get out of them. The church building serves one purpose: to keep you from getting cold in winter, hot in summer, and wet when it rains. We have attempted to evangelize the world by evangelizing the building.
Yeah.
It's like the farmer plowing inside the building instead of plowing in the field.
And making the building the drawing card. We build a beautiful building so you'll come to the building.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
We evangelize every classroom and every pew. The way we work at it, you'd think the building needed to be saved. We work as though all the lost people on earth were in the building. We must consider the very word evangelism, of the very meaning of the word evangelism. If your church is not reaching sinners, as the early church did, we should not be prejudiced against new thinking. Abandon this notorious mental block. Hey guys, Scott, Preacher Across America, Art Nealon, Thrive Church, and AJ Nealon, Thrive Church, thanks for being on Witness Depot and Parrot Talks.